Brice. Brice Izyah, the one and only. Why should people listen to this episode of the podcast?
I think they should listen to it. One, because it got Matt Scott. That's all you need to know. But I think that it's a safe space, right? We go through ups, downs, left, rights, technical difficulties, emotionally bearing it all to being like I feel like it's a real life testament or a real life check-in, right? Like we checking in and you get to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, and that's what Pod Friends is about.
I will I will say, Brice, it's a good time to wet your whistle. Just like,
listen,
mm.
wet your cold coffee.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pod Friends. I am your host, Matt Scott, your pod friend, Matt Scott. Excited to be here with you and just so thankful to be back with you. That song was Pod Friends by Will from America, who, by the way, since the last time we released an episode, has gotten married. So congratulations to Will and to Julia on your marriage. I will say that I know it's belated, but it's never too late to congratulate Will and Julia on their marriage, and it's never too late to come back with Pod Friends. I know that many of you want to skip ahead to the interview with Brice, and so there is a lot of stuff packed into this intro. Some of it's me talking and sharing what has been up, what it's been like going to these RHAP live events and some other Brice and Wen community events. Also, a special guest cameo from the one and only Mike Bloom is within this intro. But if you want to skip past all that and to dive into the conversation with Brice, I'd say to skip ahead about 15 minutes, exactly 15 minutes and a few seconds, and you'll hear the Pod Friends theme song and me introducing the one and only Brice Izyah. Wow, 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 Pod Friends. It's great to be here with you. It's great that you could hear the sound of my voice. It's great to know that you're listening. How are you doing? Come on, think about it. Spend some time with it. I genuinely want to know, how are you? If this finds you in a positive place, in a negative place, in a place, that's okay. That's okay. And I hope that by the end of this conversation with the one and only Brice Izyah, who I love, and who you're going to hear an amazing conversation with, that, you feel better and that it improves your day and it adds to your perspective and you show Brice the love that he deserves at Brice Izyah on all of the platforms. But wow, everyone, it has been a minute since we've released a Pod Friends episode, and I've had so many conversations with listeners of Pod Friends since releasing the last episode. I'll talk about that in a bit. But one person I met said to me, "Oh my gosh, I loved Pod Friends. I loved everything you did with Pod Friends." I was like, "Oh no, not the past tense. We are here. We are still having conversations. I've been having these Pod Friends conversations with all of you. Like, we've been doing Pod Friends together. And the way that we've been doing that is through the Toronto live show back in May. This fall, I was at the New York RHAP live show in New York City. And then I was at the LA, aka Brea, live show. And then I was at the New Orleans live show. And while I haven't been releasing these Pod Friends episodes, I've had like this amazing opportunity and experience to just talk with so many of you, not only about Pod Friends and about what I'm up to, but about your stories. And from the bottom of my heart, because I could go on about this probably for 30 minutes, but I'm going to try to keep it brief. Matt, keep it brief. Hold it in. Keep it brief. Come on, do it, Matt. You could do it. The conversations I had with each and every one of you, the moments, the interactions that I had with each and every one of you that I met in person in 2023, such a gift. There were tears. There were, a number of long tear-filled conversations with folks just about what not only my presence on the network, but even more like the conversations and stories that you're hearing from folks here on Pod Friends, like why that matters. There were so many moments where we were connected. There were so many moments where someone would grab my hand or give me a hug and tell me that a certain episode resonated with them for some reason. And it wasn't even always the ones that you'd expect. I think that was one of the things that was so meaningful to me. I think about people who, came up to me and shared just how much these conversations matter to them as they navigate their identities as people of color, as queer people. And I say this as a Black queer person, as a Black bisexual person. Like, the number of people who've resonated from an identity perspective in terms of the conversations here meaning something to them and helping them not feel alone has mattered so much. The number of people who've resonated from a mental health perspective has been huge. The number of people who have just felt comfortable sharing their lives and their struggles and what they're going through, even the excitement of their lives, of what they're going through because of these conversations has meant the world. And I want to shout out so many specific people, but you know who you are. If we've met at one of these RHAP live events, thank you. Thank you so much. As as the one and only Rob Sesternino knows one, also as one of my Survivor faves, Tyson Apostle knows, I destroyed my voice this fall, especially being at RHAP live shows and having conversations with folks. I will tell you, I met one of my Survivor heroes, one of my RHAP heroes, future Pod Friends guest, hopefully, Tyson Apostle, at a mall in Brea alongside Rob, and I opened my mouth to speak to him. This is after one of the nights of RHAP Live before the second one, and there was literally nothing. There was nothing because I used it all on you. And so if I'm not bitter at anyone, I don't want to blame anyone for that. I wish I could have said so much more to Tyson. I hope that we'll be able to make it up with a conversation in the future. But all to say that I was telling some other podcasters this. It takes, a lot sometimes to have all those conversations and to just be in touch so much. And, something I shared on the Pod Friends Twitter at Hey Pod Friends this fall was a video just talking about how, I do navigate social anxiety and I navigate just those feelings going into these spaces, but you all make it so easy to show up fully, to show up to get to know you. You make it easy for me to want to be connected, for me to want to like dive in about your stories and how awesome and amazing you are, because you are awesome and amazing. And I love to be able to truly get to know each and every person to see that. And so if there's one thing I could say right now, number one, it's to please follow me on social media at one of the places at Matt Scott GW on Instagram, especially on Twitter, aka X, because I love to really be in community with you all. One thing that a lot of people that I met this fall will know is that when they'd come up to me, I'd ask them their name, they'd say their first name, I'd ask them their last name, because I love to put faces to the names, and it's nice to feel like we're in this together, not like we're creating something as podcasters for you, but that we're in this together. Specifically though, I want to gosh, I want to shout out one past Pod Friends guest in particular. And honestly, if you are hearing this as a listener and could like tag him and send him a message and send him love, I would love that so much. Mike Bloom at a Mike Bloom type on the social media. Mike and I had an episode that came out on January 22nd, 2023. And I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. I heard from dozens and dozens of people that that episode resonated with them. Honestly, I have to say that will always be a podcast and a conversation that sticks with me, not only because Mike was so generous with his time and because we both cried and it was the longest episode there and he was just so open, but because I had so many people come up to me and tell me how that episode in particular resonated with them and that conversation resonated with them. I love that all the episodes could resonate with folks, but I want to show love to Mike because there's something there that will stick with me, not only for the rest of my RHAP podcasting career, not only for my interviewing career, which extends beyond RHAP and all, but there's something that will stick with me with that podcast for the rest of my life. And if you haven't heard the Pod Friends episode with Mike Bloom, I'd encourage you to subscribe to Pod Friends. RHAP is a website.com/podfriends feed. I almost forgot that plug. It's been a minute again. But to check out that episode, check out so many others. I mean, just going through the history of things. I mentioned Nick Iadanza was the last episode we released before this one. Akiva, AJ Mass, Kevin Jacobs, Jessica Leese, Evie Jacoda, Marianne O'Ketch, Stephen Fishback, Jordan Kalish, Isaiah 8-Ball Goins, Aza, Stan C, Aman, Gia Worthy. Okay, I'm going back through the catalog, but there's so many others, and sometimes I've had people come up and say, this person should be on Pod Friends. They've been on Pod Friends. We've had so many amazing guests on Pod Friends, and I'm just so thankful to everyone. But speaking of Mike, his birthday is in August, and right around his birthday, he launched a Cameo account, which again, if you go to at a Mike Bloom type, you could find his Cameo and all of that. But I requested a Cameo from him for you all, and of course, it's been a minute. So he delivered that in August, right around his birthday. But I got it to share with all of you, and of course, my instruction was to have Mike share just his words and advice and love for all of you. And of course, he said a lot of beautiful things to me. So before we get into the conversation with Brice, here is a cameo from the one and only Mike Bloom. And again, tag him, tell him that this is in the episode. He doesn't know that this is in the episode yet. So at a Mike Bloom type, and here's what Mike had to share. I haven't listened to this, by the way, since receiving it in late August. And I also haven't thanked Mike for this. So thank you, Mike.
Hey, Matt, it's Mike Bloom. Thank you so much for ordering the Cameo. I did not expect this whatsoever, but it just goes to show how incredibly generous and supportive you are of like each and everything that all of your friends do. You are seriously such a great come with guy. No matter what may be happening, no matter what people throw your way, you are willing to absolutely bat things back at them. Though I don't know how much experience you have holding a bat, but you're a good baseball player in this regard. So thank you so much for the Cameo. Sincerely, I really appreciate it. Any words for the pod friends? Well, let me continue this moment of gratefulness, of gratitude, because at the time I'm recording this, I recently had my birthday a couple of days ago. And you know, you never know on your birthday. I've never been a big birthday guy. It's not to say that I didn't have celebrations, but just for whatever reason, maybe it's just because I live such an odd, transient, all over the place lifestyle. I never regarded it as like something big. I'm also just not a big like gift receiver. Gifts are not really high on my love language list. I think I told that to Taryn last week. So like, I usually downplay my own birthday, but I mean, listen, I'm only human. It means the world sometimes to be able to hear messages from people either I know intimately, I know well, I know really well, or maybe those that I don't, with such words of positivity. And while I talked about last time when we spoke back in January, by the way, it was January, that was wild, about how we should be encouraging more just like random acts of kindness when it comes to that, especially online. it's always nice to have the excuse in a birthday to be reminded of the impact that someone might have on their life. And I am so incredibly grateful that I've had even a minute impact on anybody's life. I know I'm just sort of rehashing what we discussed. Again, over 6 months ago. That is wild. Time absolutely flies. But I just wanted to thank all the listeners of Pod Friends, whether it was you wish me a happy birthday or not. Again, it's fleeting. It's like a 5-second thing. But those 5 seconds kind of add up over time and accumulate into a much larger amount that I'm holding in my heart and will for a while. I definitely have a folder of photos in my phone called like words of affirmation. They're sort of like things that I send to myself or things that friends send to me that are things I need to remind myself whenever I'm hitting a low point, of which I admittedly have a number of times the past few months, just for various reasons. And something like a birthday, again, as small as the message might be, getting to connect with so many people and realizing that I have in so many different ways has just lifted my heart. And it's something that I really needed a reminder of. So thank you to the Pod Friends for just the support, not only, again, outside of August 19th, but the other 364 days of the year. You sincerely do not know how much it means to me. And Matt, you do not know how much you mean to me as well. I'm looking forward to the next off season already to get another batch of your excellent interviews. But for now, just keep swimming. Love you, buddy. Bye.
Ooh, thank you so much, Mike, for just your heart, for your humor, for all the things. I could go on and on, but I'm gonna hold myself back. I'm gonna hold myself back because I want to get to this conversation with Brice, which is so powerful and meaningful. I hope that this one resonates deeply, not only with everyone in this community. And again, if it does, send me a message or tag me in a post at MattScottGW as you share this episode, because honestly, that's how people are going to hear about this. Share, you sharing and telling a friend. As Brice would say, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Tag Brice at Brice Izyah. Let him know what resonates. Celebrate him. Show him some love. That's what Pod Friends is about. Brice and Wendell Holland are two people, one, who've now been on Pod Friends, but also who just show so much love and care to all of the members in their community. And it means the world. Even since we've recorded this interview, I have to say, not only have I seen Brice in action at multiple Brice and Wen Presents, I also have to shout out that after this interview was recorded, I was Brice Izyah for Halloween. And the love that I got, not only being myself, but like being him for a night, just showed me how special this human is. So without further ado, making his way to the podcast, hailing from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, he is the Purple Pants Badass, the HZIC, the head zaddy in charge, the co-founder of Brice and Wen Present, the host of the Purple Pants podcast, a fan of MLA. Woo, Chile. He's a loved one to you and me. 1098765431. Please welcome the one, the only Brice Izyah. We're here, Brice, and I'm excited to be here with you. Let me just say this, Brice, as we were saying off pod. I appreciate your perseverance being here. We went through war. We went through tech challenges. Up and down, all around. Like they really tried us, and I for a minute was just like, it wasn't meant to be. Today wasn't meant to be the day. But
I didn't give up. You kept saying, well, next week. I'm like, no, it's happening today, man. You just don't understand. If I have to throw this laptop against the wall, but we were able to figure it out, and I'm so excited to be here with you.
But I kind of want to, I'm excited to be here with you, but I want to talk about this a little bit because I was taking that, like, I was like, okay, signs from the universe. Like, it's not meant to be today. We have lots of barriers coming up. The technology, Steve Jobs was getting in the way, but we're here and we made it. And I don't know, for me, I feel like something in my life is like, I am very adaptable to be like, okay, whatever, we'll figure it out. but you kept going, and I just feel like there's something deeper to that that I'm like
I,
curious about, Brice, because you pushed through.
because I'm on an everlasting journey of a road to a better Brice, right? And I feel like in my life, I'm able to self-reflect a lot, right? I'm not perfect. And I think the older I get, the more in real time I'm able to like self-reflect, self kind of like critique and talk through.
Hmm.
And I'm telling you, Brice a year ago, through the storm that we just went through, I would have been like, Matt, let's just do it another day, right? But I realized that the older that I get, even though she's not that
Mm,
old, but
no.
the more
21.
seasoned, right? The more seasoned that I get, I learned that you will always be tested, right? Like I think a younger version of myself used to think that like you'll go through these tests and like you'll get on the other side. And so the
Mm,
more lived experience that I have learned is that like I think I was always looking at it wrong. Like you're always going to be tested. So it's not a matter of
yeah.
like what the test is. It's like how you respond to the test. And will you allow the test to overcome you? And so like you one have been asking me to come on this podcast for a long time, and it's just kind of been on the back burner, no fault of yours, maybe more a fault of mine. But I was like, there's nothing that's going to stop me from recording with you today because one, I feel like we are similar in so many ways. I feel
Hmm.
like you understand the path, that our paths are different, but I feel like you understand
Hmm.
specifically like what my path is, and the encouragement and the love and support that you give me. And even though at times I feel like I
Oh,
don't deserve it, and we talk about this a lot, but
yeah.
uh I was like, I have to show up for Matt. Like there's no way I'm not going to show up for Matt. And so I feel like that was my test of the day, right? Like it could have just been easy for me to just like, listen, Matt, it's not like you could you could physically see
Yes. On FaceTime.
on
That
FaceTime.
I mean, I'm not to air it all out, Brice, but the dollar sign wasn't working is all I'm gonna say. And we needed the dollar sign.
Okay,
So
ching ching.
there we go. And it makes sense. And you are money, Brice. Look, I'm just letting you know. But no, I feel that and I think there's something to it. I'm glad that we're starting out talking about this because I appreciate you. And I will also say, you know, like I'm glad that I asked. I'm glad that we found this time. I'm glad that I also persevered to find time with you, and that the schedules lined up more than anything else, because that's really it. But it's a gift to be here with you. And you did reference, Brice, and I have to acknowledge it. I mean, if people are only listening to the audio, that's their mistake, because Brice, you are, as always, radiant. You are glowing, and I have to ask you, because I believe Wen and I, the one and only Wendell Holland, started out our conversation unexpectedly talking about moisturizers, and so I just want to know, Brice, what's your beauty routine? Because I want to take it.
Well, okay. My beauty routine is rather simple. One,
Of
first of all,
course.
you gotta know your skin, right? I have a very
Mm-hmm.
oily skin. So
Mm,
sometimes I feel like the face washes that I use are a little more harsher than most people because like I needs to get my skin, but a good
mm-hmm.
moisturizer, right? And so I don't necessarily have a specific brand. I am a Marshalls. I'm a
Mm,
Ross girl. And I don't
yes.
know if you've like, I love their beauty discounted aisle. Like every time I
Mm-hmm.
go into a Ross or a Marshalls, or it's Ross Marshalls, I feel like it's another one. But I will spend,
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, used to be 25.99, now it's 7.99.
Mm,
I gotta get this. So I am all for a good moisturizer, and I love a face mask. My mom growing
ooh.
up, she lived by Queen Helene mint
Mm,
julep. It's a green face mask, and so I,
yeah.
3, 4 times a week after I get out the shower or bath. I put a face mask on, let it
Oh my
harden on your
gosh.
skin. Yeah, like serious. And a good moisturizer and a good cleanser. Cleanse in the morning and at night.
Damn. I need to. Okay, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna take notes on all of it. I hope people are taking notes. There's a lot there, but look, you have it figured out. You're radiant. You are young. I feel like I am getting older. Like one day, Brice, I'm gonna be older than you. I am 31 now, but I'm just saying,
You are
one day I'm
older.
gonna be older than you. I am older than you, so it's happening. But no,
But
I
that's
appreciate you.
also
Please.
also something I have to get better at, right. So my real age, right, like I don't reveal that much, but I'm 37, right, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm an and yes, it is a joke, right, that I'm like, oh, I'm 21, I'm 22, like all of that, but I do realize though, like, and I don't know if I've talked to you about this before, but the root of that, of me and
Mm-hmm.
my like age thing, for me specifically, comes from being a gay Black man, right? And
Yeah.
I remember being younger, and I, let alone like seeing what a 30-year-old Black gay man was when I was younger.
Mm,
Like I just didn't see that, right? And I
yeah.
was very much consumed with like the AIDS epidemic, right? Like I had an uncle that died of AIDS at a very young age. And so
Wow.
like I didn't really get to see what this age looks like. So I was always scared of
Yeah.
it. And so I say to myself, I have to do a better job of like not joking about my age and also like owning my age, right? Because there is someone somewhere out there that like could look at me and see, bitch, this is 37, right? And
Yeah.
can, because like representation is so important. So like, although I
Mhm.
joke about it, I do have to get a lot better with actually like owning my truth and like living in like this is who I am, this is how old I am, and it only gets better with time.
Yeah, but that's it. You landed on it too, because that was what I was gonna say. Is like, I love like I and look, I know the baby boy's age. Like I'm on top of that, Brice. I have you on my calendar, just making sure I keep up year to year because that could get you could let that get away from you. But I'm just saying, like that's the beauty of it. And I've heard you talk about that before on the Purple Pants podcast, just about exactly what you said, which is that so often, like we just don't see ourselves represented or like the future version of ourselves represented or the version of ourselves that we relate to because that representation hasn't been there. And like for me, what's cool, we're each on our own journey, but it's amazing to see you realize this and process this so that I didn't have to have like the existential crisis maybe and figure it out for myself because I'm like, damn, Brice is thinking about these things where like I'm able to look ahead and be like, oh, this is where Brice is at on his journey at 37. And I'm only 6 years behind you, but then there's I'm thinking of other people who I've met and spent time with more recently where it's like, oh, you are like 23 and 24 or 25 and you're looking up to me as a 31-year-old. And you know no offense to us, because we are young. We are young. Let
We
me
are
establish that. But some of these people think that 31 is old. Some of these people think that 37 is old. Some of these people think 50 is old. Now, I'm just saying 50, you're starting to get there, but you're not even old. So I'm just putting it
I,
out there.
I also feel like there are nuances in the nuance, right? Because I also feel
Yes.
like, let's call a thing, right? Like there are in the gay community in itself,
Mm.
there like I feel like in the gay community, I feel like 37 to 76.
Oh my God.
So
Yes.
like,
Yes. Yes.
there are a lot of nuances that like, but honestly, like I feel like you are as old as you feel. And
Not
I
76.
mean, I'm just telling you what the streets say.
Damn. You know what though? Like, and I think that's there's a lot out there, right? Of other people attempting to tell you who you are, attempting to tell me who we are, attempting to tell whoever's listening who they are. And I think one thing that's important is just being really tapped into who you are. And Brice, like one thing I just will say upfront, I appreciate so much in you is like how and I know there's always like there's always even more beyond what you've shared, but like I just appreciate your vulnerability and your openness, and you always like being willing to explore these things. I mean, one, maybe just to get them out there, but also so other people could see themselves. I mean, it might sound like a very simple question, but before like even just going in a different direction with where my mind's going, like why has it been so important for you to like be seen and to share your story in the ways that you have? I'm thinking of the Purple Pants podcast. I'm thinking of Brice and Wen Presents. I'm thinking of just like everywhere you show up. You do such a great job at that. But I think a lot of people could also learn from that of like the importance of their own stories. But like, why is that important for you?
I think for a long time in my adolescent and growing up, I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe that I had a story. I didn't believe that the I felt isolated. I felt like the things that I was going through were the only things, only myself I was going through it. No
Mm-hmm.
one else was going through it. And after like my experience of Survivor, which wasn't the experience that I wanted, I think the biggest thing that I took out of Survivor was I kind of realized that like I am that person, right?
Mm,
I have a story. I am somebody that can be important. And so I think that I really just started learning and lending myself to living in my truth, right? Because I feel like
mm-hmm.
for such a long time, I was hiding and not being
Mm,
my authentic self. And there was a point in time when I just was like, well, you've done all these other things that have not worked out.
yeah.
So why not try leaning more into actually who you are, right? And the more I tend to lean into myself, the more I tend to talk my truth, I bear the greatest fruit from it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I still to this day I am working on being more vulnerable and tearing down a lot of things that I believe to be true on myself and these boxes that I put in myself. But I look at myself from 5 years ago and I really am astonished at not the things that I've accomplished, but I'm astonished at the person that I am today. I have I'm very big on like friendships. I'm very big
Mm,
on maintaining friends and like a lot of well, practically all of my friends outside of the reality realm are 25, 15, 10-year plus friendships. And
mm,
I would say maybe like over the summer with one of my really good friends, we went through a turbulent patch and I had to think that like I was showing up as the Brice that I was today, right? And I was like, trying to
mm-hmm.
communicate and understand. And I had to realize that like, wow, like I don't think that this friend realizes the Brice that is today. Like I think that they are like holding me to this Brice that was in college and that like,
Yeah.
was petty, which I still am. I'm working on it, but like I would, hold grudges or I would have an attitude or I would
Yeah.
do different things about and that's not who I am today. And I was like, even in those moments, and I realized like I was like, wow, like I actually need to communicate to this person that like I feel like you're holding me to not the person that I am today and not the person that I am showing up as who I am
Yeah.
today. And it's weird because like I don't often have those epiphanies because I like it's a everyday Brice to me every day.
Mhm.
But when moments like that happen, I really can kind of sort of like see my growth and I'm like,
Mhm.
who is this person? Who is this adult?
Damn.
Who is this mature person? And it's sometimes like so jarring to me at times, Matt.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to that, and it's interesting because one, I feel like just through how much of yourself you feed into other people, into me, into just this Rob as a podcast community. Like one of the things that I appreciate is even seeing some of that growth within you, which has been fascinating, and that's because you're you've been so open, like sharing those steps in your journey. But you actually just like triggered something in me that I have not thought about, which is like just that pain that we have, you know, when we're figuring out who we are exactly. And like, believe it or not, like Brice, baby boy, I am like, I think I've always had a good heart, but like in college, around that time, as I was just figuring out like who am I as a person fully, you know, like how do I show up fully? Like, oh, the pettiness was there, Brice. The pettiness was there. Look, I could look. Everyone needs a little petty. That's what I'm saying. When you mentioned being a little petty, I'm like, petty is a superpower. So you have to keep that in your back pocket for those who deserve it. But like, just like some of that fire and that anger. Like I'm like I live in Washington D.C. now, of course, but like I grew up in New Jersey, and I just feel like there's like a little bit of like this Jersey, like, what, you want to come at me? Like, what's the thing? And like that, I realize, because some of my good friends who I've been friends with now for 10, almost 15 years were like, oh man, you really, Matt, like you were like, if someone messed with me or any of my friends, like I'm ready. I was ready. I mean, I wasn't fist fighting anyone, Brice, but I was like ready to like get in their, not even get in their face, but just like tell them off and be
Right.
that sassy petty when it's just like not everyone is worth the trolls are not worth your time and attention and energy, or you know, they're not worth your time, attention, and energy. They're not worth mine. But I also think the cool thing is when you start to show up in like really positive ways, for the most part, you know, you attract the positive people and all that good stuff. You mentioned being something that I don't think a lot of people, myself included, could like picture in you, which is I can't remember the exact wording you used, but just almost being like more I don't want to say closed off, but just like more reserved with who you are. Like we know you to be like bright Brice, like out there shining. But when was it in your life? Was it like your teen years, or like when was it that you were not this like bright shining out there like all of the things that you've evolved into?
So I think first, great question, right? I think my elementary school days, I think I
Mm,
was this Brice, right? And sometimes this makes me a little sad because
yeah,
I feel like the version of myself that you see today, right? I feel like
yeah.
it that's who I was in elementary school, right? Like I was so
Hmm.
outgoing and so was in the drama club, was in the plays, wanted to dance. Like,
Mm,
I was authentically myself. And when I talk about this, it makes me a little sad, Matt, because
yeah.
I wonder if I didn't take this break that I took on myself and was that person from third, fourth, fifth grade, and like, who would that person be today, right?
Mm,
But I think it really started in like high school. When like I feel like the bullying really started. And
mm,
I was like, okay, I don't want to be going home crying every day. I don't want to be getting teased by my brothers. I didn't have a
yeah.
safe space, right? Like I would go
Hmm.
home and my brothers weren't. And when I talk about this, like my one
Yeah.
particular brother, he always gets a little annoyed because he's like, I had your back. I was like, yeah, you did, but you also were an older brother, and like you
Yeah.
know the normal
Yeah.
stuff. But for me and how I felt at that time, like getting teased at school, being in soccer practice and getting teased at soccer practice, then
Hmm.
coming home and like, your brother's not wanting to do anything. And so like I really kind of like went into this space where I was like, well, if everyone says I walk like a girl, I talk like a girl, like I don't want to be any of those things that people are calling me, because it hurts
Mm,
my feelings. So I kind of went into this like, I don't know. I just wasn't myself. And so of course, like
yeah.
at home and in my room, I would be that, but I wasn't who I was supposed to be, right? And so then it was like, high school, then it was college, then it was like young adulthood where like I just kind of like went on this facade of just like, being who I thought I should be or who I thought the world wanted me to be. And it again wasn't even after Survivor and my adult
Mm,
years that like I realized like why am I'm an adult. Like I want to like live the
yeah.
life that I want to live. Why am I still like trying to be this person that like we're a bad bitch. Like we're
Mm,
here to shine. Like I'm not meant for that. And I think also like a huge contributor to that is like, my friendship with Wendell, right? I feel like
mhm,
I have in my adult years not come across many like straight black men that's encourage me to be myself, right? That like support me. And
mhm,
I think like just having that like okay from a friend that is like be you, like you be you and I'm gonna support you. And actually like when you're not yourself, I'm not gonna support that. So
mm.
it's been a journey and it's like just even still like just getting back to the things that I love to do and wanted to do, I feel like I'm getting a chance to do now.
Mhm. That's something I feel like is so common though with just queer people in general where I mean to give yourself grace cuz that's one thing I'm big on now is like I'm not a big regrets person and I never have been and I'm very thankful for that because we all know how regrets could like burrow in people's brains and souls and all that. But I like look back now more than I ever have. And actually like podcasting has been a big way that I've done that. Like I watch and podcast on post show recaps about the show Heartstopper, which with Grace Leader, and that has like been so insane because we did the second season, we did the first season, and I'm like, damn, I didn't think I was going to be talking about all of my, child teen trauma and all of that. Especially just because I went like just like like I was in an all boys school, but not even in today's world. I was in all boys school in a time where it was just like so messy and problematic. And you were in school in a time where it's just like, this was even like before they said, don't say that's so gay. Like that
Right.
was the thing still. And so, we've been through a lot, but we also have to do a lot to protect ourselves. And I think it's like beautiful that you're discovering yourselves because a lot of people I find, especially at this age, there are so many friends, others. One, I love that I have so many friends who are just living their lives and living in their truths. But at the same time, a lot of people govern their lives by the expectations that are put on them. When are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? When are you going to do that? And it's like, who the hell said I was going to do any of that? But also, what? That's not your business.
Right.
So I just think like, I think that it's beautiful that you are living in your truth and that the one and only one that you're on, Rob, is a podcast. Yes, Brice, take a drink out of that mug again. Yes, that RHAP mug. There we go. Modeling. Yes. There we go. Give us face, Brice. Yes. Thank you. Ooh. Oh, Brice, stop. I can't handle it. I can't handle it. We're ridiculous. I'm ridiculous. We're ridiculous. But
Ridiculous together.
no, we'll talk. We're ridiculous together, and that's the way it should be. But I'm sure we'll talk about the one and only Wendell Holland, Wendy Z, of course. But I want to ask you. So you mentioned like growing up a little bit. When you were growing up, one question I love to ask people because it's always just fascinating. Like, is there anything you wanted to be growing up, like just to do with your life, your career, anything like that? I'm so curious, Brice.
So I think the one thing that one, I always wanted to be an entertainer, right? Like I wanted
Mm,
to I just something,
okay.
right?
Hmm.
Actor, singer, dancer, but I can't dance. I can't really sing to the masses, but I wanted to do something in entertainment. But honestly, for the longest time, and even in like my 8th grade yearbook, I
Hmm.
wanted to be a mortician.
Oh my God. A mortician?
I I come from a family that is from the city of Philadelphia. I've experienced
Oh,
death,
yeah.
right? A lot
Hmm.
in my life. And I just I thought the idea of sending someone away, because one, death is inevitable, right? Like,
Mhm.
and it's a part of life. We need to like face it.
Yeah.
But the thought of like sending that person home correctly,
Mhm.
sending them off right, consoling the family, like being able to like all of that, I felt like was like in my wheelhouse. And I mean, morticians make good money, right? Like, so I
Mhm.
just felt like that was always something that I wanted to do from a young age. I have shied away from it a little bit more. I don't know if that's exactly what I want to do anymore, but for the longest time, that's what I wanted to be. Like, I wanted to be a mortician.
The one thing is that was so beautiful what you just shared, Brice. And I will say, I just appreciate that you landed on. I don't know if that's what I want to do anymore, just because like I could see you being a mortician. Like there's still life to live. Like that might be
Right.
your next career. But wow, that's so fascinating to me, and it's powerful because you know, um, so many people are touched by loss close to them. I often will and in fact talked with Wendell about like losing my dad, and we were just talking about our dads and that. But like, I know that you and we all have had losses that have touched us, but that's so beautiful to like have this urge to be someone who is like recognizing the reality of that. Oh my gosh, Brice, I have to ask on a different note, what was your like first job?
My first job, I worked at Ben and Jerry's. I was scooping
Mm.
ice cream.
What was your favorite? Wait, are they the one with the 52 I don't know how many flavors
Uh-huh.
there are.
But they have a lot of flavors.
32. Yes.
My favorite at the time when I worked there, and I think I had my first job, I want to say it was like 13, going on
Mhm.
14, and I've had a job ever since. But
Mhm.
pistachio. It sound kind of nasty, but it used to be so good. And then I used to love I used to, prior to that in my life, like I always thought like butter pecan was so nasty. Like, oh, that's like what my grandma eats. But like I got to
Mhm.
actually like experience it. And it used to be like pistachio, and butter pecan on a waffle cone with some hot
Ah.
fudge or caramel and some whipped creams and some, oh,
Mm. Oh my god.
I used to tear
Ooh,
that up.
I was gonna say that all sounds good except for the fact that I'm allergic to nuts. So everything you're saying, I'm just like my skin's crawling. But then I'm hearing the waffle cone. I'm like
Mm.
picturing the fudge, the carrot. Ooh, okay.
And I would
Ooh.
freshly make the waffle cone in the press, so it still be like warm and soft. Like, oh yeah, no, it used to be a thing. It used to
Oh
be
my
a thing.
gosh. Wait, this is interesting to like talk with you about your different jobs and your careers, Brice, because it sounds like look, the mortician thing hasn't happened yet. Ben and Jerry's did happen. Is there like a worse job that you that you've ever had in the past?
So how about because one, like I put myself through college. So I've
Yes.
always had like two jobs, right? Like I've
Mhm.
never really had one job. Like even currently right now, I have like four jobs.
Yes.
But my worst job, I would say, is like I worked at Ross for a day.
Oh,
A
Brice,
day.
one day, and you still go there to get the lotion
Oh, I
sometimes.
still go there. Yeah,
So
I
you
still
haven't
go.
been banned, but it was only one day. What is the story of that?
It was
Not to dig up
no,
the
but no,
trauma
it
of
it
Ross,
wasn't even
but
necessarily the job. Like I don't know if you've ever been to a Ross or a Marshalls. Like one, there's
mhm.
always a long behind line. It's always one person working. Like it's
Yes.
and so I worked at this one particular location. I remember I
Mhm.
went in at 4 o'clock, and on the schedule, like I was working like 4 to 10. And so like that was
Mhm.
fine. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was just walking around. Then it became like 9:30. And I remember saying to like the manager lady, like, oh, okay, like, well, tell me what I need to do to like start closing up the store so we could go. And she was like, oh, we don't start cleaning up the store until it closes at 10. So I
Mhm.
said, well,
Mhm.
what time do we leave? And she was like,
Uh-oh.
whatever time we get done. I said, oh, okay. I'm gonna take my break and I'm gonna see y'all later. And to this day, there's my friend Sarah, I guess there's like some website where you can look up like if you have any like money outlying somewhere. And so my friend Sarah, she was like, well, I have like $500 out there. I was like, oh, look my name up. And
Oh
not
my
that I
god.
have like $45 from Ross, like sitting somewhere. Like, y'all can have it.
Oh my god, Brice, get your money though. Like, get that money, please. You deserve it. And oh my gosh, you've been through so much. Like, I just feel like it's just all the stops on you. Look, but now I have to keep going with this. I'm like so curious. You've held so many. Okay, just like tell me, because I feel like there's like, there might be other stories. If there's anything interesting, we could please share with the class. But I have to ask, what is the other range of jobs you've had? This is insane.
So it was ice cream. Then I worked at a
Hmm.
food restaurant. It was called Ranch One. And it's so weird
Hmm.
because like I was in high school and there was this college girl. Her name was Chanel, and she went to like
Hmm.
Cheney University. And it's I was like so amazed by Chanel. And it's so weird
Hmm.
because to this day, Chanel and I are still friends. And every time we see each other,
Mm.
we be like Ranch One. But so it was almost like a Chick-fil-A, but it was like a franchise from like New York. I don't know what they're doing now.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
then after that, I moved into like then I worked at a shoe store called Stride Right, and I worked there for like 12 years.
Okay. Look at that.
And from Strive Right, I used to work at a store called Aerosols. I used to work at DSW. I used to be
Mm.
like a camp counselor for my friend's company. It's called Special Vacations, where they take people with disabilities of all like mental and health, and they take them on vacations. So it's called
Hmm.
Special Vacations. And so I've done that. I've been a social worker. I'm
Hmm.
trying to think any other. I worked at Ross.
Oh my god.
I worked at a foster care agency. Uh,
Wow.
yeah.
Damn. I mean, and
Well,
there's even more. Yeah, go for
yeah.
it.
Well, I social work. I student taught. Well, I was going to be a teacher, and then during my
Mm.
first year of teaching, I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is for me. And that's kind of sort of how I like kind of made the transition from like education to social work. Just because in my one class, I felt like I wasn't able to get a lot of teaching done because I worked in the inner city, but
Mhm.
I'm a Pisces. I'm a nurturer.
Ooh.
I can't like one particular instance that I realized I was like, I can't be in this classroom setting was it was raining one day. And I remember like, first 20 minutes of my class, of
Mhm.
Bryce's class was, we like come in, we unpack, we put our book bags in the back. You
Uh-huh.
can, if you want to read to yourself, if you want to
Mhm.
like, just a check-in. And I remember like, I don't know what I was doing. Great and getting
Uh-oh.
something done. And I remember like there was like this chatter and like I was like, well, what's funny? What's going on? And they're like, it smells in here. It smells in here. And so like I was like, okay, well, let's figure out what the smell is or like what's going on.
Oh,
So
no.
anyway, it was like one of my students, like they didn't have really great shoes. And so it was raining that morning. And so when the
Yeah.
shoes got wet, the smell kind of like
Mhm.
transformed the room. And
Mhm.
so I immediately like went into like nurturer mode. Like we kind of figured it out. Like
Aw.
I worked at a shoe store. I got him shoes the next day. And
Oh
like,
my
like,
gosh.
oh, because I like they were my babies, right? And so like
Yeah.
we're not gonna do that. And so stuff like that just happened throughout that whole school year with me, with whether it was like clothing, whether it was like lunch, whether it like I just realized
Mhm.
that my impact in that moment, like I could have a bigger impact not in this classroom, like
Yeah.
outside the classroom. And that's kind of sort of how I got into social work because there was so many times during that one year that
Mhm.
I was in contact with social workers. And
Mhm.
the social workers didn't look like the children that were in my class.
Yes.
And the things in which that they would say and do, I didn't necessarily agree with because I felt like,
Mhm.
well, I understand what you're saying, but like it doesn't make sense to this family. And so that's why I was
Yeah.
like, if they had more people like me that could go into these homes and like see it from a different perspective, things could be a lot different. So then I kind of got my hands into social work, and I've been kind of doing that ever since.
But I like one of the things I appreciate and just love about you, Brice, is how much love you always put into other people. And it's also beautiful as you continue to evolve to see you put that love into yourself as well. But it's also just great to see you put that love into other people. And you mentioned being a Pisces. I am not the biggest like astrology person in the sense that I can't keep up with any of that. I but I have to ask, like, how does a Pisces like what parts of you are the most Pisces like, I guess is what I'm asking.
Uh,
Tell
I'm
me about the Pisces in you.
so I don't know a lot, but
I
what
don't
I
know
do
anything.
know is
You could lie
is
to me if you want. I
I
know.
know Pisces are intuitive. I'm
Uh-huh.
very intuitive. I pick up on energies. I pick up on things. They are givers. They're
Mm-hmm.
nurturers, and they are extremely sensitive. And I am
Mm-hmm.
extremely sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
those are the things that I know. I'm a February Pisces because like I'm very intuitive. I pick up on things, and some things like I pick up on that maybe don't like I may meet somebody and I'm like their
Yeah.
energy is off, and then I automatically just assume it's me. And sometimes I don't
Mm.
take into the thought process that maybe they're going through something else. Maybe like,
Yes.
and so that's also the sensitive side of me. I'm like very sensitive, although like, I'm growing and maturing, but I
Yeah.
I'm very sensitive.
Yeah, no, I feel that, and I think that that's one of the most beautiful gifts, though, to realize that how people interact with you or how they even treat you sometimes respond to you it like if we thought, in our early 20s, let's say, or in our teen years that like
So
all of
last
it
year.
was because last year for you, yes. If we thought that all of it was about if we thought that all of it was about us, like now it's beautiful to be like, oh damn, wait, that's not about me. And I know who I am so much more now, constantly figuring out, constantly on a journey to a better Matt Scott, with inspiration from the one and only Brice Izyah, I have to say. But like that's the thing that's beautiful is just like hopefully not internalizing that as much. But yeah, it's beautiful to be sensitive. I think we need more of that in the world sometimes. I have to say, I want to know, there's so many directions I could go in with you right
Okay.
now, Brice, but I'm curious from you, like, you really one of the things that I imagine that you've picked up on just being out there in the world is like people's energy toward you. Like I'm thinking of, okay, there was Brice on Survivor Cagayan, like that happened, that was out there, and you were at least from there. I'm sure there were so many other steps and beats in your journey, but then you're in this podcasting community, you're in this Survivor community, you're out there, and I just think it's so fascinating because I really feel like you have had such an evolution where you are still like so many of the things. You are the person. You're the same. Like you're that you are technically the same person, but you've evolved so much in so many ways. And I'm specifically thinking about people knowing you as like the purple pants badass, as the head zaddy, as the baby boy, all of it. Perp. But I want to know, Brice, like, is there any way that you have picked up on people perceiving you that you just think is like inaccurate or not complete? Like, in other words, I can imagine a world where people might see you as this one thing, like, oh, that's Brice, like he's the silly one with the purple pants, oh, whatever, but like I'm curious if there are things you picked up where you're like, you've wished that people could see more of you, or you still want people to see more of you. That was like a deep, heady question, but you're with me.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think that like I am who I am, right? Like
Yes.
there's always versions of ourselves. I think sometimes, and I'm still figuring this out in my own self. So this is like, a work in progress, but um there are a lot of times when I meet people and uh they'll give me the yes, queen.
Yeah.
Oh
Mhm.
my God. Like, you know, and I
Mhm.
receive it because, like, you know, that is an energy that I do. Like, you know, I feel like Brice Izyah is a lively person, but I don't know, like that always like I have to like work that in my soul because it's
Yes.
like when
Yeah.
and there are nuances to it, right? Because
Right.
there is somebody that like a you and I could communicate and our inflection and how we say it
Mhm.
and it can mean completely different things. But there are times where I do get the slay queen or like, you
Ugh.
know,
Yeah.
all right, like, and it's just like I've just said hello to you, right? And so, but
Yeah.
so I have to work. Like, I think my real work through here is that I am comfortable with like who I am, but
Mhm.
it's still kind of like I think the thing that like irks me a little bit is that that caricature of what they are. Like, yes, I am that, but no, I'm not that, right? And it's like
Yeah.
when I get that character of that I get, for me, it's like, so you don't actually really see me, right? Like
Mhm.
you see this a flamboyant, like, you know, and that we're not a microcosm. We're all like there are
Mhm.
just different nuances. And so for me, sometimes that's just a struggle because it's like you don't see me, right? And you think
Yeah.
that one gay black man is like you just think that like we're a monolith and like there
Mhm.
are so many dimensions and so many different things and I don't know. I just like it's just still something that I'm working on, but that is something that I do get a lot, but I do own it, right? Like I feel like there is you know, of course
Yeah.
there's Matt Scott
Ah!
and then there's Matt, right? Like there's a Brice
Yeah.
Izyah, and then
Yes.
there's a Brice, right? Like I'm
Right, right.
a regular
That's
human being.
that's real.
And um, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it's just like when I get those type of interactions, it's like you don't see me as a human, right? Like you don't see me
Mhm.
as a being. Like you see me
Mhm.
as a I don't know what you see me
Yeah.
as.
Yeah. No, I feel I well, one, I relate to that so much and but in a different way because I feel like I also benefit so much from well, I benefit so much from you in in many ways in the spaces that we're in, and you just showing up as you. But like I think of the one and only Aman Adwin. I wish I had like a nickname to throw in there with him. I love Aman and I adore Aman, and I feel like um, it's fascinating, like you talking about this, just to kind of like take a side tangent because for me, something that um I don't know if it's like struggle with, but something that I always like if you see me at an RHAP live event, if you see me at Brice and Wen Presents when there are all these like survivors, Brice and Wen included, right? Like I am very much like someone who recognizes I'm like this person right now is being seen as this one thing or as a fraction of who they are. Like I think of Sari as an example, who's the very first freaking throwing me into the wolves with this. Beyond you and Wendell, of course, she was the very first survivor that I met at a Brice and Wen Presents event, at my very first event, my very first survivor event overall. And I was like, one, I was just so thrown off and starstruck and in a loss for words. But then when I thought about that too, I'm like, I just want to talk with you about like living in New Jersey, like having that. I want to talk with you about like your work in the medical field because I have a lot of family who works in that area in like hospitals and in the medical field too. And it's like seeing people as people or for who they are, I think is just difficult sometimes. But that's something like I'm always looking for. And I appreciate being able to see you as, you know, as full of a person as possible, including through this conversation. But I don't even know where I was going with that. But what I will say is that maybe to go in the direction of these Brice and Wen events, because you bring together such a phenomenal community that sees you, that elevates you, that uplifts you. I see the people with their Brice and Wen Present shirts. I'm just saying, where like I need to get my purple Brice and Wen shirt, but we'll work on that. We'll talk
We
about
got
that,
you.
Brice. I know, of course. But I want to know, like, because I've seen you on the event days at the events. I've run into you before the freaking events here on the streets of DC very randomly. Maybe should have been expected, but very randomly. But I want to know, like, what is one of those days like for you when it comes to whew, putting it all together? Because I know personally events can be a lot, but how do you do it? What's like the wake up in the morning? Like what's the step by step here, Brice?
It is a lot, right? Because it depends on the city. And it's Brice
Uh-huh.
and Wen. So it's Wendell and I do it together. So it's so great to have a business partner, a friend
Mm-hmm.
that like you can count on, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's a lot. Like it's a lot.
It's a
Like
lot.
I have a full-time job, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
think some people have this perception that like, Wendell and I are like on this lavish life and we are like touring and it's just like we're rolling in money and like that's the opposite, right? Like
Oh.
I think that whatever we make, the little bit that we do make from
Mm-hmm.
these, we put back into the Brice and Wen. Like,
Yeah.
like we try to take care of the people that come out and support us. And like, and so that literally means like really nothing for us. Like we are doing this off of the strength that we love the show Survivor. And we have started to build a community where it's a safe
Mm-hmm.
space for people to show up however, whoever they want to be when they come. And that
Yeah.
thrives us. That encourages us to be like, wow, like what could this be? But also I have a job. So
Mm-hmm.
my day normally starts at 5:30, 4:30 in the morning
Mm.
because I need to get up and I need to log on to work and I need to
Oh
make
my
sure I
god.
do the work that I have to do for that day so that it leaves myself open to do whatever it is that we need to do. And so normally a day is like getting up 4 or 5, working from 5:30 to maybe like 8, 9:30, then
Mm-hmm.
meeting with Wendell, reviewing like our guest list, making sure that we have everything that we need in place, heading to the venue, setting up in the venue, which some people don't do. Like, but again, Wendell and I are
Yeah.
very hands-on. So it can take us up to 3 hours. So like
Mm-hmm.
those posters don't just get put up by staff. Don't like
No.
we sometimes curate the space to make it that it flows better, that it makes it seem friendly and open. And so in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of us starting this, I used to think Wendell was so crazy, right? But like I see and can understand how the feng shui of a room can
Mm.
really change so much, right? Then if there are press that we have to do, then radio, TV,
Mhm,
then
mhm.
getting back and meeting up with some of our experienced ticket holders and meeting up with the reality people and managing that
Yes.
in itself is a lot. And then showing up
Uh-huh.
and then turning yourself on because it's like
Yeah.
the one thing that Wendell and I are so good at is that like if you come to our event, like we give ourselves, right? Like
Mhm.
we appreciate that you have taken the time to come and like be at our event and experience and like we like how it is, Matt. Like sometimes I don't
Yeah.
even really get to talk to you because it's like I want to make sure not only that I get to see everyone that wants to see me, but I realize that there are some fans that are like, oh my God,
Yeah.
Matt Scott is here, and I'm too scared to walk up to Matt Scott. And I'm like, say no more. I will go through the sea of this and bring Matt Scott to you. And
Yeah.
and so a lot of my night is that like I want to make sure that like people know that we
Yeah.
appreciate you and we see you. And then midway through it, it's breaking the stuff down and trying not to see people notice us. Like it's a
Mhm.
production, man. Like
Yeah. It's a
it's a lot.
lot.
And
And you
then
know what? Oh my god, and then what?
well, I was gonna say, and then like
There's
last
more.
season for season tour 44 was our biggest
Yes.
production yet. And
Mhm.
for half of the shows, Wendell wasn't there because he was filming a show. So, right, like, so I
Mhm.
had to take all of that on. And
Mhm.
well, of course, with help from a lot of our amazing friends and staff, but like, I feel like, because this is pod friends, right? And I
Yeah,
always tell this
there
to
we go.
Wendell. I really feel like the tour 44 kind of like altered who I am as a person.
Wow.
Because so
And
I
it's interesting, I'll say, because I
okay.
don't think maybe I feel like 44, I weirdly did not see you during 44 just because like things didn't line up and the timing of like me going to the events. So I'm curious because I didn't even know about this. It transformed you though.
It completely. Like, so, and again, I am so grateful to have like a friend in Wendell and that like we do this together because it's a lot. Like the
Mhm.
things where I'm lacking, Wendell is strong. Where Wendell is lacking, I'm strong. And so like we really have a great formula of just like working together. But having to do like 4 shows back to back by myself, it just kind of changed the person that I am. And it has forced me to set new boundaries that I never thought in my life that I would have to set, right? So
Mm,
after, because again, like when I say like we give ourselves, and if Wendell's not there, then I
yeah.
feel like I have to give everything. And
Mhm.
it leaves me with nothing, right? Like when I say
Yes.
nothing, like after our event, sometimes, Matt, like I don't have the mental capacity. Like I am, again, like I said,
Yes.
I'm a very I live by myself. I'm
Uh-huh.
used to just managing me.
You.
And so then
Yeah.
when you go to these large scale things, and then you get back and it's you got to hit the road again. I got to get to work. I got to like, and so I have like
Mhm.
started creating these boundaries where like after like one of our after we get back, like I need to disappear for a day. And I don't
Yeah.
feel bad about it. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not calling you back. Sorry. And
No.
again, it took a toll on some of my friendships because my friends are like, you're not around anymore. And then when I call you, like,
Yeah.
you don't pick up. And
Mhm.
I don't necessarily have anything to say to that, but I have to choose my peace. Like I have to like
Yes.
really understand that as these things grow, as things evolve, if you don't really like protect your peace, if you don't really like do the things like people think I joke and laugh when I'm like, I take a bath. Like I'm a bath girly. Like
Mhm.
that's my peace. That's like
Yeah.
my zen. And sometimes when you are ripping and running and giving and making sure that like everyone has an amazing experience, it's like, well, who's checking in on you? Who's making sure
Yeah.
that like, and so I was burning myself out, and probably still am, but
Mhm.
I've just put into place different things that like I'm
Yeah.
allow you to handle that, Wendell. I'm stepping back. I need a
Good.
day. I need to
Mhm.
just like, in order for me to be the best myself that I could be, I have to allow myself to like come down. I have to allow myself to like
Yeah.
go into my cocoon. And I used to feel so bad about that, Matt, though. Like I used to feel like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm being so selfish. Like, oh, I need to like go to my friend's birthday. Like, but like you're
Mm-mm.
being selfish to yourself. And so like
Yeah.
I just have been such a proponent of the word no.
Mm. That's the best word. And it's an easy one to forget. Like, I feel like I've been in cycles, or not even cycles, but just like moments where I've embraced that word no more than others. And I think it's hard when you're doing the things that you want to do, or like when you're like, oh, but that's my friend who I want to spend time with, and they only have a birthday once out of a year, or whatever it might be that's happening, Like that word no is so powerful. But I love what you're saying because I relate to it so much. Just because, like, through my job, like, it's funny because as you were doing maybe it was even the same night. The night before the Survivor 44 finale. And so I know there was a lot that you all were doing around the Survivor 44 finale, and I feel like I missed out on so much in New York City
It was the
in May,
time.
but I know. And I was in New Orleans for work, like hosting and organizing this event, like screening these interviews that I did and all this great stuff. And I remember that event, and it was like a Tuesday night, and my event ended and I had nothing, and it was outside, so I was also physically depleted but socially depleted. And the people who were kind of like helping a little bit organize kind of looked at me and said, "Oh my gosh, we should go get food and drinks." And I'm like a shell of myself, barely able to be like, I don't have it. And you're trying to not be like a huge like asshole about it, but you're like,
Right.
I don't have it. But that's like a boundary that I've learned since to put down. Like I don't have it. And I love what you're doing with communicating that beforehand and letting people know, because your friends, the people who are there and supporting you, will always be there for you even when you can't show up. And like that's something that I have learned in this 30s or my early 30s journey of like, ooh, the people who really care for you and get it won't even make you feel guilty at all for that. That's how some people say that they want you to be there, but they won't make you feel bad at all. But yes, baby boy.
You hit the nail on the head
Mm.
with that, right? Because so Wendell and I had a conversation about this, right? Because I would do this, right? And then I felt like, Wendell will be mad at me with the next time we talk. And
Hmm.
through our talking, I realized that Wendell doesn't have an issue with me doing this. I'm just not communicating, right? Because I just was so
Yeah.
depleted. And again, the more older I get, the more seasoned
Hmm.
I get, I realize that like sometimes my actions, like I'm always feel how I feel, right? Like that ain't
Yes.
never going to change. However, then I feel like if my friend gets mad at me for my actions, right? Then it's like, you know
Hmm.
what? I can't be me. Duh, duh, duh. But I'm learning that but
Hmm.
you have to communicate your
Yes.
whys of your actions. And so like that Matt has been so and it sounds so simple, but I realized that I am a great communicator, but I'm a horrible communicator at times. And especially when
Mm.
it comes to my feelings, because here we go down this rabbit hole. Like I
Hmm.
have taught myself that my feelings don't matter, and that
Mm.
like so it's this. Then when I have to speak about my feelings, I feel like I give it the that you're not going to care. I give it the that like it's not
Hmm.
like I am setting myself up for not it being greatness, or not greatness isn't the word. Instead of just being like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
tired today. I don't think I'm going to make it. Hey, after this trip, I'm not sure what it is, but I need 2 days. So if you don't hear from me, like, just
Hmm.
know that. And
Hmm.
when it was broken down to me and I started implementing that, I realized, like, oh, wow, am I the problem? Is the problem me? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but like,
Yeah.
it's communication. Like, I think that
Yeah.
we all can be better at communication.
Right. Number one.
Number one, like we think we're good communicators, but then sometimes it's like, for me, what I have learned is that like I am a great communicator, right? But am I a
Yes.
great communicator when I'm mad?
Ooh.
Am I a great communicator when I'm pissed off? Am I a great
Mm.
communicator when I'm agitated, right? And so when I started
Hmm.
adding those different variables into that, I'm
Yes.
realizing that like my communication style is different. And
Hmm.
sometimes my communication style when I am in those modes are nonverbal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Ooh.
again, it's just learning who you are. And if I could have applied some of this to myself 6 years, like it's just, but again,
Yeah.
it's, it really comes back to exploring, figuring out who you are, what makes you work, and realizing that like your weird little ticks that you do are
Hmm.
fine, right? Like it's
Yes.
like, and again, if somebody gonna love you or put up with you, they're gonna put up with you. But like you also have that to do that due diligence of advocating, of communicating,
Hmm.
and verbalizing what it is and how you
Hmm.
feeling. And the way in which you verbalize it is important, right? Like there's just so much to it. And there are so many times where I have to like remember to take a step back
Uh-huh.
and then
Hmm.
communicate. And for a prime example of this, what I'm talking about is my keyboard fiasco. Because no, but
I
I'm
like that
trying to
we're
tell you,
coming
like,
back to it. I
yes,
love
we
this. I
are.
love this because and I love how we start talking about it because it is like actually really deep. I appreciate this, but please go on, Brice. Please.
I keep telling you, the old me would have probably never called you, and I would have been. You saw how agitated I was at my
Yes.
computer. Like, you know, like I would have just been agitated at my computer, then thinking like I'm making Matt late. Oh my God. Like it would have like again blown up in my head to the point that like I would have been like, text you 45 minutes later, like,
Yeah.
Matt, we're gonna need to reschedule. However, like I'm
Mhm.
like, not only am I going to communicate with him, he's my IT. Like I'm going to bring him on this
Yes.
journey. But again, like it's those little moments, right? That
Oh.
like, and even me like realizing that like that is like the growth, the evolution of me is like, you know, really communicating and not assuming and not like, I don't know where I'm at with it, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes. And no, I mean, like that's it, like the communication. And the thing I appreciate cuz I'm just like freaking out listening to you cuz so much of this is stuff that I've just realized. Like I think last year I had an epiphany where I was like, wow, if I don't tell this person clearly how I'm feeling or what I think, then I can't expect them to know that because I had that realization of like I can't read minds and always understand what people think because I was having a conversation with my best friend earlier today, a heated conversation actually just about this where I was like, I need you to tell me what you need, but like at the same time I know what it feels like at times to be like in a friendship where you're like, I'm frustrated or upset about this thing, but like younger me, I will say, frustrated or upset, or a younger me, or angry me, or upset me, or tired me, right? It's like all of that, but to it's so much easier said than done to communicate with people about what you are feeling, thinking, what you need, all of it. But I think the beauty and the power in that, and realizing that communication is the issue, is that now I'm thankful because I have times where I'm like, I'm tired, I'm angry, I'm upset. I don't feel like communicating, but I know it. And I know that like in that moment, maybe I'm the problem, but I also deserve to give myself grace. You deserve to give yourself grace, Brice. And just like be that, you know, be hard to communicate with. We deserve to be hard to communicate with at times. Um, that's just the way it is.
Right.
But damn, that was deep. That was so deep. I feel like we could go on and on with that in particular, but I'm seeing we're on the back half, not even the back half. We're on like the last third at least of this interview. So, but this conversation more than anything, and it just means so much to like be here talking with you about all of this, but somewhere I want to go
Okay.
because we brought him up a little earlier. Wendy, Wendell, that guy. I don't know if there's anything you want to say about him, but I just think it's so fascinating because even from when I did this interview with him, like he's a dad and life has evolved for him in many ways. And it's fascinating too because, you know, like you don't I don't see him sweat. You know what I mean? But like I know that the sweat is there. So I'm just like I don't know if there's anything you want to say. You did appreciate him a bit, especially just like as a, as him being a, straight black man, but like I don't know if there's anything else you just want to say about him because I know he said so many things, amazing things. He didn't even talk trash about you when we did our interview. So,
Well, you know,
you could talk trash about him too if
I
you
can
need
always
to.
talk a little trash. I
Drag
think
him.
I, I won't today. I think
Okay, good.
one of the most admirable qualities that Wendell has that sometimes not sometimes, I know that I am lacking, is
Mhm.
that he, from his upbringing and what has made him the person that he is today, he sees the good in everyone,
Mhm.
right? And it's so inspiring because because of my upbringing and because of the obstacles and hurdles that I have endured in my life, I don't
Mhm.
always see the good. I think as a self-defense mechanism, I see the bad.
Mhm.
And that clashes a lot in our friendship, right? Because it's like he'll see this, I see that. He'll see this, I see that. However, I think
Mhm.
being such a good friend with him and having the trust that, for me, there is, and that we can go down this rabbit hole if whatever,
Yeah.
but like there's just a trust for me, right? And especially like with men, and I think that it like really revolves back to like my dad. Like,
Mm.
my dad died when I was in college, and I don't really know
Mm.
if when my dad died, like if he loved me, right? Like I'm sure he
Yeah.
loved me, but like my dad just really wasn't present. And so like my dad died of colon cancer, and
Mm.
I
Wow.
remember like we got this call that like he was probably going to be his last night alive, and like my brothers, they all wanted to go to the hospital. And so for me at that point, I was in college at that point, and I said, no, I'm not going to go
Yeah.
because for whatever reason, like I just felt like my father really wasn't in my life, and so like
Mhm.
I'm sure it would make it easier for him as he's transitioning for him, but like I'm making a decision for myself and I'm not going to put myself through that. And I
Mhm.
remember my brothers being like, you're going to regret that decision one day. And here I am
Mm.
37 years old and I
Yeah.
don't regret the
Yeah.
decision, right? Like I just made that decision. So I just always have this like trust issue with men, right? And so I think that
Mhm.
like Wendell is just such a great friend, and he really sees the best in everyone. And I think that just me being so close with him, it allows me to realize that like what I've been through does not have to be what I'm going to go through, right?
Mm.
And again, shit is always going to happen, but
Yeah.
it's how you handle it and how you see it. And so I think that like that is just one of the most inspiring things that Wendell has brought into my life, is that like I need to stop assuming and see people for like the good. And I
Mhm.
think that like he really is such a great human being, right? Like we were walking down the street the other day coming from a photo shoot, and there was a person asking for money for an organization.
Mhm.
And I'm like, we gotta get to the car. I've got time. Like, and like
Yeah.
it's just human decency. Like he had a conversation with the person. He was like, listen, I'm not giving you any money, but like I want to hear what your cause is. And
Wow.
just like he has the ability to see people, and he just really is such a great friend and such a just a bright light. And I'm just really lucky that like our paths cross and that we're able to be friends, because I think my outlook on life would be different if I didn't have like a Wendell in my life. And so does he get on my nerves? Yes. Do we argue? Yes. Do we fight? Yes. Have we
Yeah.
driven home from Boston a 5-hour car ride and not said a word because we are fighting? Yes.
Yeah.
But do I know that Wendell has my back and supports me? Absolutely. And do I have his back? 1,000%. And they say surround yourself with people you want to be like. And like, Wendell is definitely
Mm.
someone that like I want to model myself like. And so he's just really I mean, it sounds so generic and simple, but like I think when you get to know the core of people's being, he
Mhm.
has a really good core.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what I love? Like, one, I love that you shared all that, and there's so much there. One of the things that just jumped out to me and, like, smacked me in the face as you were sharing all of that, and even talking about your dad was, like I was like, "Damn," like, you mentioned losing your dad to colon cancer and the relationship you had with your dad, and, of course, I spoke with Wendell about our dads, where it was a very positive relationship, but mine passed away in my early 20s, at 20, 23, 24 years old, to a rare form of leukemia. So also just in that same realm. And I'm realizing something, Brice, that is like an epiphany, that I feel like there's like so many parts of Wendell that I connect with and deeply relate to. And there are so many parts of you, Brice, that I connect with and deeply relate to. And I'm just like I would, it would be my honor if like they just, if some in some world they just like mesh the two of you together, like, and then just I popped out, because like that's, I just feel like so connected with you both in so many ways, but it is kind of wild. And I think you're such like great compliments of each other too, which is really powerful. And like men struggle to have deep relationships and friendships where we could be emotional, which includes being, showing love and being there for each other and expressing that to other people and sharing that with others as an example, but also being angry and arguing but making up and all of that. And it's just so beautiful and important. And so I have to take this in a different direction though, with our limited time remaining, because I have to ask you, Brice, about Wendell
Okay.
Wendeezy.
Okay. Yes.
And I don't know what you're about to say,
Oh God. Well, this excites
but
me. Yes.
how would you say Wendell is as a rapper?
Oh.
I'm not shading him. I'm just asking.
No, this what I will say, because I love to give people flowers where flowers are due.
Uh-huh.
Wendell can rap. I like, he can, like, our rap styles are different, but
Mhm.
Wendell can, he can wordplay, he can ride the beat, Wendell is, I think Wendeezy is a
Yes.
fairly good rapper. So I'm like, I'm gonna go ahead and give
What?
him
What?
that.
Oh my God. Oh, I got the bell. That felt so good. I'm happy to hear it, but it actually brings me to something I wanted to just talk about with you, like a little
Okay.
segment or whatever we're gonna call it. And Brice, I think like the best name just to put it out there for this segment, because I was really thinking of Brice. And by the way, let me just give you the truth here with this.
Okay.
If we didn't start when we did,
This was gonna be
this would not have happened, because it was a last
okay.
minute idea. That's how I function sometimes. But I'm excited to introduce you to a segment that
Okay.
I have to call Purpify. Purpify,
Oh,
like Spotify Purpify, I guess. I didn't want to get
I
sued.
like it.
But so Brice, I went through your Spotify a little bit. I
I
saw
have a
like the different songs.
catalog.
You have a catalog, baby boy. And I look, I just want
And
to
I'm
like,
very vulnerable in my music. Like, my old, first of all, I have like a catalog of music that I have never released. But
oh my
like, if you
God, like
listen, like,
Beyonce.
I want you to like I just off topic random. I want you to
Yes.
listen to my song Matt, like when I talk about like my love and my experience. I want you to listen to my song You Will Lie. Like, but like
Mm.
from your perspective
Oh my
of like,
God.
because I like, yeah, but no.
Well, I have to say, Brice. So You Lie is oddly not one of the songs that I'm including in this, but what I'm gonna do, because I figured you're not gonna sue me, or you might, but I'm gonna play just little clips from some of your
Okay.
songs, and
Okay.
just like very briefly, like I want to see if there's any like inspiration or anything it reminds you
Yeah.
of, or just
Yes.
anything like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
let's
Yes.
get into it. And by the way, ooh, you better be watching the video version, because we've got a graphic. Let's
Oh,
do
not a
this.
graphic. Oh
Yes.
man. Oh.
Oh, this one's familiar.
Yeah. Chile.
It's the purple pants. 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 It's the
It's the
purple
Purple
pants
Pants
podcast.
podcast. You better get your headphones in, listen up quick. Whoop.
It's the purple
Okay,
pants
yes.
podcast. Don't listen in public, might make your stomach hurt.
Okay, this one goes on for a little, but it's iconic.
It really is. And this song means so much to me because
Mhm.
there was, I remember like recording Emma Lit. How relevant. I haven't even thought about
Yes.
that. How
Uh-huh.
relevant to Survivor 45.
Yes.
When we announced the Purple Pants podcast,
Mhm.
and I remember creating this song with E. Barrios, 100% original written
Yes.
by me. I was in such a transition in my life. I had accepted a new job offer, and I was like transitioning from my one job to my next job, and gave my 2 weeks notice. Then the job that I accepted actually were like, they had to rescind the
Oh
actual
my
letter
gosh.
due to, so like there was a point like in my life where like I want to say like 3 months, like I was like unemployed.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the podcast came along, and I just remember like being so down and low, but like I remember just like creating this Purple Pants podcast song, and I wanted it like I just like for me that song just always has something so special to me because I just remember what I felt like I was going through, but I was like, I am not my situation. Like we're going to
Mm.
persevere, and I'm
Yes.
going to make beautifulness out of whatever I'm going through. So like that was like a so random of a random. I don't know, but if this is what
No.
the
I
Purpify is
love
supposed
it.
to be like, but
This is what Purpify is. We're breaking it
okay.
down. So I'm going to keep going. This next song, I will say, was in, I'm not bragging, but it has been in my Spotify top songs of the year a couple years in a row. So let me just give it to you. It's coming. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got that smoke, what you looking for.
I got that drip, I got a spilling on the kitchen floor.
I'm taking flights overseas, changing currencies.
My location is remote, bitch,
Currently.
Damn, where I go, that's a big fact.
Never been one to follow head of the wolf pack.
No rules to this life,
There we go.
gotta take that shit.
Yes.
Prince of the money, gotta make that shit. I got that heat, I got that smoke, what you looking for?
What you
I got that heat,
Wow. There we go. Wait a
What
minute.
you
Let me pause
want.
that. There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Brice, anything about what you're looking for that you want to share? with
One,
us?
it's like my highest streaming song ever.
Oh,
It has
you're welcome.
charted. Okay, she has charted on Apple Music. I love that because that was like one of my first collaborations with E. Barrios, who is an amazing
Yes.
rapper, producer, and I just love everything about that song. Like that was a pure collab. A lot of my collaborations are me trying to get people to work with me. Like we should do a collab. It would be great. It would be so good. And it's like, you know, E. Barrios was like so nervous about doing it because he takes his craft very seriously. And I don't think that he knew my work ethic, but like, I love the fact that that is like our highest song that any of us have. And so that it's a bop. Okay. Stamped
Again, top
anywhere
songs.
I go. That's a
Big
fact.
fact. Ooh, I just feel like that song like epitomizes you, Brice. I'm just seeing the jet. Like I know. I one question I didn't ask you. We'll save for the next this next interview. It will be just where you keep your jet parked, your private jet. But either way, we're gonna
Russell Swan.
Oh my god! Oh god, I was worried who you're gonna mention. We're gonna keep going. Let's see what's next.
Oh, this is Hood Ratchet Bright.
I don't do all that back and forth.
Okay, talk your talk.
It's time to get it, let's get it. What's
poppin'? I pull up to your door, just driving.
Ain't no talking guns, I'm just straight rocking. Edge your whole block out, I'm chopping. It's time to get it, let's get it. What's poppin'?
Oh my god, man, this interview is
just
so
dropping. Ain't no talking guns, I'm just straight rocking.
Yes.
Edge your whole block out, I'm chopping. You want that smoke? I got that smoke.
Oh,
ready for
there we
boy.
go.
Yes. That's
we could have kept going. I had to
ratchet
cut it.
error.
I had to cut it before. Yeah, tell me about it.
Sometimes you have to let the girls know I'm not about that talking back and forth on a computer or whatever. Sometimes
I mean,
you need to use
Brice,
your
that's literally what we're doing.
Well, you need to use your communicational skills and have an in-person conversation. Is what that song is about.
Wow. Damn. Look, there's a lot to unpack there, but we're going to keep going because there's more. Let's see. I think this one's a more recent one. Let's see.
Wendy's.
Yes.
You trying to go back on tour?
Let me think about it.
Tour 44.
Brice and Wen on tour 44.
We finna go on tour.
Brice and Wen
on the tour 44.
We about to go on tour.
Brice and
Brice and Wen on the tour 44.
Do you want more?
Brice and Wen on the tour 44.
Slide through
out to the door, got my jacket on, looking fresh out the door. You know I got back. Love that song. That's like, do you know me? Purple pants costume. Tell them what we gonna do. I get it. Ain't mean to serve you. Got you past your curfew. Yes, I love that song. I also love that song because, mind you, I was taking a couple of shots at some people because we had Wendy's. So that song is a perfect collaboration of Wendy's and I coming together. But we had just come off some turbulent times, and like sometimes what's the point of responding to somebody when you can respond on wax, like the rap artists do? So there was a couple of shots I had to take in there.
I saw the Kim in there. I saw the Kim in you. And there's only one. I think only one more I've got here. Let's just.
I love this, man. You're making me feel.
Take this as your sign. Jing said, only good
vibes.
Hat said,
The team must be legendary.
Wen said,
by any means necessary.
We back. Y'all know that. We back.
Back to the city, the BWP team is back.
We live on that. The vibes on lay.
Your eyes open.
The vibes spoken. Y'all know that. We back.
Back to the city, the BWP team is back.
we live on that.
Live on that.
Keep your eyes open.
The vibes spoken.
You think we said?
Never.
Oh, Brice, we did it. Anything about that one? We
I
back.
loved it.
The most.
I love it.
recent one.
I didn't necessarily like the song. I think Wendeezy wanted a different type of flow that I am not accustomed to. And so it's so funny, like when we were recording it, I was stumbling all over the place because it was just like, it's not my tone, my signature, but hearing it come together, I love it. And it's Brice and Wen on the tour 45.
Wow. Okay, and here we are. That was Purpify, Brice. Thank you so
Yes.
much for this. And again, I will stress that literally this was like you were like, okay, I need some more time. And I was like, great, I need more time too. So just the beauty, you never know what'll come out when you give people more time and all of that. But I'm glad we made it happen because I would have been sitting on that for whoever knows how long. So this is awesome, Brice. But I'm thankful for you. You're just so much like, you're everything, Brice. That's what I'm trying to say, because I just love like all the places this conversation goes, but all the places that you go. And one thing I do want to thank you for that I realized I started to even really thank you for, but like, again, just the ways that you pave the way for so many people, myself included. And the diversity campaign, I think, is the best example of this in a very tangible way. But just how you show up, you make so much space for me, for so many other people, all while on your own journey of growing and making sure that the representation's there. So Brice, I'm just going to keep, this is like the rest of the interview, me just like talking at you and telling you how amazing you are. But and on a related note, before I awkwardly hand it back to you to respond however you want to me just throwing all this praise at you is, and I told you this at Survivor Philadelphia 3, because it really occurred to me when you were there, no spoilers, but just like even how seeing you soak in your flowers, seeing you soak in praise, seeing you accept it and just not struggle with it or reject it, which I know might have been a younger Brice, not a better Brice, but a younger Brice. I just love like who you are now. And I love how it also gives me like, oh, I could grow in those ways too. So I'm thankful. Okay, I'll stop talking. People are like, what? Did Brice leave the interview? Like, no, Brice is still here. I just had to go on for a minute.
I'm here. Matt, you know how I feel about you. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. I feel like you see me, right? Like you see who I am. And on the very same note, it's like sometimes I feel like I don't deserve the praise because it's honestly like how I look at you, Matt. Like I feel like you are so put together. You speak so eloquently, like you are the person that I want to be, right? Like I feel like so it always humbles me to like say that you look up to me because it's like, well, man, we look up to each other because the way that you move your academic skills, your organization, the way that you like show up, the way that you love on people. I am always like, and I say this to like Wendell all the time, I'm like, I want to be more like Matt, right? And so it's like, when I say I feel like I don't deserve it, it's not me rejecting it, it's just saying that like
Yeah.
the feeling is so mutual. And I think that we don't see enough of like Black queer people coming together and
Yes.
celebrating each other and really like uplifting. And I just, yeah, I love the fact that I could be myself around you. I love the fact that I like you're a part of the Survivor Philadelphia crew. Like I love the fact that,
Yeah.
you know, I just love seeing you thrive. I love seeing you in your space. I love seeing you cut up. I love seeing you on your academics. Like I just love seeing the full you. And if you have never seen a Matt cut up, it's epic, right? And
Oh,
so
I love
I
it.
I do,
There's a
but like
video. There's a video I
I
will
have a
say, by the
couple.
way. Oh no.
Man, I have a couple of videos of you in my phone, but I just love that you show up, right? Like it doesn't matter the space, doesn't matter where, like you show up as yourself. And so for me,
Mm,
that inspires me. It makes me proud. It just is like you're doing what you need to do, and that just words sometimes slip me and they don't come out right. But like,
same.
no, it's truly a privilege to know you, and the love that you pour in me, I receive it so much. And I like, and you hold me accountable. Like, you know, there are times where you're like, you shouldn't say that, you shouldn't do that. You know, you
Mm,
give me my flowers. I like, and I'm not used to that. And so I am learning to receive, and especially when it comes from somebody that not only looks like me, that sounds like me, that understands it.
mm,
It's like I don't want to cry because like I love to cry, but like I receive it, man. Like I don't think sometimes I think that there is a world in which younger Brice never thought that I would receive praise from somebody that looks and sounds like me, right? And so it's like
mhm.
not only do I have that in you, but I have a friend, right? And so
Yeah.
I just love and appreciate all of your love, Matt. Like you just don't know how much truly it means to me.
And and one, it's funny because I will like honestly tell you, like, this is a moment where in order to like even fully appreciate that, because I think like it could be so overwhelming to receive that love and that praise. And there's, like you said, there's that sometimes that voice like, oh no, 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 like, oh no, you deserve that. But like the thing is, we could feed into each other. And I'm just like, this is one reason I love this show, because I could go back before even the people get to hear it. I will go back and listen to that and take it in again. And it just means the world to me. Even just reflecting on it now, I'm like, I just feel the tear welled up in my eye. I'm not a massive crier, but I am an emotional person, but not a huge crier. But like, I'm just like, it's right there. It's right there. It's about to tip out. But Brice, we could be here forever. There's so many more places we could go. I want to ask you
Yes.
one more question. Only one,
Okay.
which is a big question.
Okay.
It's a question of, if your life were a book or documentary, Brice, what would the title be and
Mm.
why? I need to know. I'm so curious. And I see the wheels turning as Brice leans into his yellow mic, which also happens to match my shirt
We
perfectly.
coordinated.
We coordinated. But Brice, if your life were a book or documentary, what would the title be and why?
It would be You Are Worthy.
Ooh, thank you. Why? That's beautiful. Clearly, as you can tell by my reaction.
I think it's a constant struggle that I'm always struggling with that, right? But I know
Yeah.
that I am worthy, right? And I need to remind
Mhm.
myself of that. And there's like, you know, I just think that for me really kind of describes my life. If it were to be a memoir or a movie or a book, it's like, you know, you are worthy, right? Like there are struggles in that,
Mm.
there are victories, but like no matter where you are, no matter what it is, you're worthy, right? And so I think that that's like my mantra. So I think that would really represent my book, my movie, my Netflix
Mhm.
series, season
Mhm.
1, You Are Worthy.
Ooh. let's get it on Netflix. I'm just
Gotta
saying,
speak
like,
it. You gotta see it.
Wendell and I spoke about HGTV, but I'm just saying, where's your show? We'll make it our show. Come on. Where's our show? Come on, Netflix. Come on, Hulu.
We'll take
Come on,
Tubi.
Prime. We'll take YouTube. Well, you know what? We'll figure it out. The deals, hopefully the deals are streaming in right now. But Brice, as we wrap up, because I know we can be here forever, I just want to give you the space to share any closing words with the Rob Has a Podcast community. Just anything you want to say to the people.
I am forever grateful to the RHAP community. I feel like the RHAP community has opened their arms and hearts to me and has really in my life probably had one of the most meaningful impacts on me, bigger than Survivor, honestly. Like I felt like RHAP was a place where I felt like I belong, I can fit in, like you can just be yourself.
Mm,
And so I love it. And I feel like I always try to like leave with a message. And I feel like, which has been on my heart and mind and spirit, that like, you know, I think sometimes we're scared of transition and we're scared of like, you know,
yeah.
but don't be scared of transition. You never like, you know, sometimes you have to get to the other side. Sometimes you have to grow, evolve, and that state of transition is scary. People hate moving, right? Like, oh, I don't want to move, but like, you know, when you get to that new space, when you get to that new place of your home, it's like, yeah. So I just feel like don't be scared. Whoever needs to hear this, don't be scared of transition.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into this episode, this premiere episode of Pod Friends, returning back from a nice little break. And I just want to send you so much love and thank you for being here, for making it to this part of this conversation. Whenever you're listening to a podcast and you make it to the end, like pat yourself on the back, because that's showing love to the creators. That's showing love to the team. And I just want to shout the RHAP team, the team that really makes this possible, putting the episode out there, putting it on social media, and just helping this conversation and my voice get to you. I'm so grateful for them, and I'm so grateful for you. And if you are still here, please tag me at MattScotchyW, tweet me, send me a message. I want to know that you're listening. It has meant the world to hear that at all of these live events, and I just want to hear it from you. So you know, I want to hear it at RHAP Live the next time we meet. I want to hear it at Brice and Wen Presents the next time we meet. I want to hear it on social media at MattScotchyW, at Brice Izyah. Please give Brice his flowers. He deserves them. He deserves the world. And if you're not yet subscribed to Pod Friends, subscribe going to robhiswebsite.com/podfriends feed. You could suggest a future guest by going to bit.ly/podfriendsnom. That's bit.ly/podfriendsnom. Nominate a future guest. And overall, subscribe to the RHAP Patreon and be part of this community where you can hear about the live events and tickets to those, and just great opportunities to make friends that you'll be so grateful that you had. robhiswebsite.com/Patreon. Email me podfriends@robhiswebsite.com. And again, at HeyPodFriends, especially on Twitter/X. I need to also just say before we go that I'm so excited for everything that this next season, this current season of Pod Friends has in store. So many great interviews and conversations, and some of them coming up include one with Frail Mary, aka Mary Kukowski, with Dr. Amanda Rabinowitz, you might know especially from post-show recaps, and Owen Knight, the one and only Owen Knight from Survivor 43 and from this community. So check those out, and again, be sure to tune in. So many meaningful conversations coming up, including those and a few more. Woo! I could go on forever, and it's sad to say goodbye, but I just want to show you all so much love. Thank you all so much. And thank you, seriously, thank you, the listener. And I want to thank you personally, so reach out. Thank you for being a pod friend.